Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
And welcome back to this Wednesday evening edition of InfoWars Nightly News. Now, coming up, we're going to talk to an insider who's been a member of the military, then a defense contractor, and is now a civil servant again, working for the government. And he did something that we've had a lot of people in government do over the years, point out things that are open source, that are public, but that the government doesn't want widely investigated. And that was now a year and a half ago. Headline, Government Censors Document Revealing Plans to Wage War on Americans. And there's a new article out today at Infowars.com that was really broken by Radar Online, dealing with the main core group, 8 million Americans they're looking at rounding up. This is declassified during an emergency, people that won't go along with the tyranny. That'll be the 8 million that have to fight back. I mean, you can't go to a FEMA death camp with these people. This is a criminal Mao Zedong style takeover. So first off, we've got Joe Joseph, who does work in classified areas. We're not really getting into that, to get his take on what's happening in the world, since he was on with us about a year and a half ago. And then we have James. That's his real name, last name withheld, who sent us all his documents and photos. We'll be showing you of him inside the telecommunications companies. 30 years putting the spy grids in front of all the wiring. Now, I separately have read the Telecommunications Acts. I have interviewed whistleblowers years ago, back when really we were the first to break this stuff in 96, 97, 98. And we're on record. And the reason I was so accurate in what I broke down was I was talking to Time Warner engineers, high level. I was talking to AT&T engineers. I was talking to Bell engineers at the time. It's not called that now. And they were explaining, no, everything, the phone companies are the NSA. Everything is tracked and recorded. And now it's all out in the open. And the issue is they're targeting the Tea Partiers. They're targeting conservatives, pro-life groups, the Associated Press. They use these dragnets to have the data. Then they go get a rubber stamp FISA warrant to then try to use it in court later to persecute people that are protected under the Constitution exposing crimes. So I was thinking about all the whistleblowers we've talked to, like Wayne Madsen, who worked at the NSA, and so many others. But James, who really is a big whistleblower, is coming up. But first I wanted to get Joe Joseph, is a Navy veteran, former military contractor, and current DOD employee in a division called, well, we'll get him to break down what division he's in. He's been in government for a decade and is a civil servant dedicated to affecting change through leading by example. He takes the oath that he took the Constitution very seriously and is dedicated to ensuring and protecting the interest of the American taxpayer. Joe is also the program director of Unbound Radio and the host of the Freedom Link, which seeks to expose the corruption that permeates our government and society, unboundradio.com. And that's a great testament, because I remember challenging him a year and a half ago. He was saying, I'm going public. I have a right to talk about these things that are going on. We that work for the government, we have a right to free speech as long as we don't release classified information. It's that idea that pro-lifers can't speak out against abortion. The IRS, we played that yesterday, saying, don't pray and don't say abortion's bad. I mean, since when can the government tell you this? Okay, you're the government, I'll do what you say. So then the last 3 months or so, they've gone out and done the very popular unboundradio.com. And so that's just an example of how you can fight back and get past the fear and then find out that there's other people out there that agree with you. In fact, just to mention this, I've been so shell-shocked by the week in England and barely any sleep that I haven't been able to process it all. There are photos on our Twitter account at Real Alex Jones, and I've got a bunch of others I haven't even posted yet because I've just got so many videos and photos. I had MI5 people. I had deputy police chiefs. I had you name it coming to me, and they weren't acting. They go, no, we know how evil they are. Believe me. We have access to classified stuff. It's worse than you think. And by the way, the Bilderberg Group's going to go public this week on BBC. Well, how do you know that? Well, you know, we've been in on the Bilderberg pre-meetings. And then I had, after the event, the police hugging me and tears in their eyes, and you're right, and, you know, we're all waking up. It's like Ceausescu's Romania when the police and military finally, the protesters came to the Communist Palace, and suddenly the police all just stood down. It's like the end of the movie V for Vendetta. And I believe we're beginning to approach that point. Now, I don't want some violent clash with the government. It's buying billions of bullets. It's buying armored vehicles. It's got its main core list of 8 million people they want to come pick up. They may put those orders out to try to start a civil war because we are politically winning. And I don't just say that as a pep rally. Every indicator we have, and what the globalists are saying themselves in their own CFR reports, is they're 12 years behind for their corporate world government. The people are waking up. They're scared. So just to get a view from the inside, working in the Defense Department, with what he's seeing with his colleagues in the last decade in the awakening, and to get his take just on general knowledge of what's happening, is Joe Joseph. Then we're going to talk to a bona fide whistleblower whose last name is being withheld to protect him. But Joe, great to have you back on since you were last with us. You heard that long intro there. What is your overall take on the state of people within the DOD? Are they more awake or less awake than when we talked a year and a half ago?
Well, thank you for having me on, Alex. I would like to start out by saying that people are most certainly more awake. It's hard to understand, or it's hard to not see the reality. This NSA whistleblower, Ed Snowden, when he came out, it was a really good way for me to gauge just who's awake and who's not, who's paying attention and who's still got their head in the sand, you know? And I think the last time I was on with you, I said it was about a 50-50 split. I would say it's probably still right around that. However, the people that are aware are much more aware of the severity of the situation that we're in.
Now, it may turn out that Snowden's a useful idiot being used by the Chinese. I don't think that's the case. And regardless, the Constitution states that you had a duty to do this. It's not just FISA stuff here they're trying to spin it. I mean, this was a bunch of total dragnet, illegal spying. Again, they're targeting the Associated Press, you name it, government whistleblowers with the special Q office of the NSA. But what is your gut? I mean, for me, I think Snowden is a hero. I mean, it may turn out he's been a useful idiot, but regardless, just the whole story, the quotes, the things he's saying, I know from my own deep research on this that he's telling the truth. Right.
No, I agree with you. As a matter of fact, if you go and ask anybody about, well, does the government listen in on your phone calls? Do they read your email? Everybody will admit to you that they do. They all know and are aware that that happens. But where the disconnect comes is, well, they're doing it for our safety. And really the whole idea that it's for our safety is totally bogus. The reason why we're in the mess we're in isn't because of these terrorists that want to plant IEDs on the roadside in America and blow us up. That's not what it's all about. It's about our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is the major problem, where we are being an imperialist power going and forcing our will upon other sovereign nations in the name of freedom and democracy. And another thing I said on my broadcast last night, I brought up the Heritage Foundation, the Freedom Index. They have a Freedom Index that lists all the countries of the world, and based on, I think, a set of 10 criteria, they rank it as far as the most free and the most oppressed. And Hong Kong, where Ed Snowden went, was ranked #1 for freedom. The United States is ranked 10th. Chile is ahead of us. Mauritius is ahead of us. And Malaysia is ahead of us. So how free are we in the grand scheme of things? That's a question that everybody has to ask themselves, because they say that we're overseas in the name of freedom to protect our rights. Well, how is it protecting our rights when the NSA is blanket recording everything that we say, that we put in writing? And William Binney, the NSA whistleblower who exposed the Bluffdale, Utah facility, you know, he said it best. There are the NSA hires the most brilliant mathematicians and the most brilliant code writers out there so that they can write these elaborate algorithms that can take that information at any time, lay it out in a timeline, and they have your life in front of them. And I think you guys made a great point. I think it was Mike Adams who was filling in for you while you were at Bilderberg. He brought up a great example of how that can be used against the American people. And he used the example of Obamacare, where Justice Roberts, just at the last minute, flips his vote. And nobody can understand why it is. Here he is, a, quote, conservative judge, and he goes and rules in favor of Obamacare. Well, how do you know, and of course this is speculation, but how do you know that the shadow government side of the House didn't go flay his life out in a timeline, find all these things, piece it together, slip an envelope under the door, and say, I think you know how you need to vote?
Well, that's exactly what they do. I mean, that's exactly what they've been caught doing on the record over and over again. And it's larger than that. Why does government have all this secrecy? Because it claims that it makes it insecure if it doesn't. Well, then that makes us insecure if we don't have secrecy. One of the main marks of a free society is that you do have privacy. We all know every bad government throughout history is obsessed with spying. Free societies don't even need to do that domestically. And we know that they've used the spying to target and persecute their political enemies, but more importantly, get intelligence on what you're doing politically to illegally block you and frustrate what you're doing. They are waging war against our industry, our culture, the family. Turn on the television. And so it gives unfair trade advantage as well to the major corporations that are able to jack into this NSA data on record. They're able to use that, and their competition isn't. So it's giving them almost omnipresent type surveillance across the board, and that's an unfair advantage. Plus, we paid for it constitutionally.
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing that is very important, and I think this is why we're gaining such traction against the New World Order and these Bilderbergers and these banksters, is the fact that we have the moral high ground. They have ceded the moral high ground, and there's nothing that they can do at this point to salvage it. And as long as we maintain our a consistent amount of pressure, I really see their plans for world domination collapsing in a grandiose fashion. Now, what does that mean? Yeah. I don't know. All I do know, Alex, is that there is a heck of a lot of preparation underway for civil disturbances within the United States. So they're planning for something. Absolutely. I mean, they're building bunkers. They're training for war with us. They're training that patriots and constitutionalists are the enemy. This is all on record. From your research and pointing out public documents that they later removed off the web and then republished, from talking to your military sources, is it economic collapse? Is it a civil war they're going to start? Why is every Western government digging in and training to take on, in open warfare, the general public? Well, I look at it a couple of different ways and trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. A lot of the solicitations on Fed BizOps points to something along the lines of an economic collapse, perhaps even a devaluation of currency, because we know that they're printing money like it's going out of style. I mean, they're just, the printing presses are just melting down as fast as they're printing this money. You also see, you know, we have the FEMA camps, or like I like to call them, re-education centers, for those that are
it's in the Army manual. I mean, yeah. Why do you think they use the Soviet term re-education camp? Well,
because that's, I kind of relate to the movie 1984, even the book, the Orwell book 1984, in that it's a conditioning, it's a place of conditioning. Also, think about this. If you have a societal collapse, just say like a hyperinflation sets in, or even a devaluation of currency, now all of a sudden you have a lot of people in the population centers that won't be able to feed their children. And the worst or the most effective person you can run up against is a parent who has to feed a hungry child. They will stop at nothing to get food or resources for their children. And they're going to end up trying to go someplace where they're going to feel safe and protected. And what better place, to come to the re-education center, come to the FEMA camp where we will take care of you and give you 3 squares a day. And all you have to do is do this work. I even equate it to something along the lines of the Chinese prison labor camps or the forced labor camps.
It's forcing you into the gulag by collapse. Well, in all my police state films, that's how they train the Marines and Army, that it's great. They have the role players beg to be put in the camp for food and water, but then the troublemakers are broken off. Aren't you for putting the troublemakers in another area? And that's exactly how in the Emergency Centers Establishment Act, which was to fund the expansion, it said, we're going to have entertainment, music come in, and the men will be here, the women there, the kids will be here. Because, the men are going to be abusive to the women in the camp. We can't have men with women. It's a prison, but it's for your safety, Joe.
That's right. And the FEMA National Continuity Program Mission Support Services statement of work that we talked about a little over a year and a half ago talks about that. And the dissenters, the ones that aren't going to willfully go, the ones that are going to resist.
The bad men. The bad men.
That's right. The founding father-esque, those terrorists, if you will.
Oh, there was a new article out today that they're doing drills in Boston for the militia bombing the public, and it said that they're American freedom supporters.
Oh, good grief.
They've got to be dealt with, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And so that's why in that document it was so important. One thing that went over was red force, blue force. To be able to identify friend from foe. Why do we need a system like that that's used in warfare overseas within the United States unless they're preparing for something? And also, why are the rich, why are the uber rich flocking to the Ozarks and building these extravagant reinforced castles and mansions and underground facilities if they're not preparing for something? So, I kind of look at it from a common sense perspective. Now, from a military side, one thing is interesting is that they're telling people not to pay attention to all these scandals. Don't believe it. It's just, don't believe that stuff. Don't pay no attention. So that's kind of discouraging, but I think that they think that the military, active duty military, are a lot more stupid than they are. And they're not. Active duty military, civil servants, they're not stupid. And if you give them the right information, they will come to their conclusion of, holy smokes, man, we've been duped. We're not supporting the Constitution, we're shredding it. Holy smokes. Was it John Boehner went on ABC this weekend and called Mr. Snowden a traitor, saying that he broke the law in exposing this. Well, really? Last time I checked, the Fourth Amendment is part of the supreme law of the land. So if he broke the law, he wouldn't have broke the law had it not been broken to begin with by Congress, the president, and the NSA.
And as he pointed out, they're just grabbing everything. And the government admitted that. Oh, we took all Verizon customers just in one program, and then we hand it over to the White House, who then uses it to politically persecute people. What I don't get is the power structure is in control. They've already got everything. They're already looting $85 billion a month of taxpayer money to foreign banks. They're already shooting our kids up with deadly vaccines. They've already feeding us GMO. Our cancer rates are off the charts. They're winning. But they're now starting to lose the mind of the people because they're pushing so hard. But is it just that instinct of the tyrants to dominate us and to extinguish the light of liberty? Will their overzealousness be what finally backfires on them?
That's a good question. I know that Thomas Jefferson said, enlighten the people generally, and tyranny and oppression will vanish like the dark at the dawn of the day. And the problem is all of this corruption, all of these nefarious plans that the banksters, that the globalists, that the Bilderbergers, all of these, the CFR controlled mainstream media, what they're doing, all these plans are now coming into the light. And that's what happens. When what happens to the dark, when lights shine on it, it vanishes, it's gone. And the problem that I see is that because the American people have been so complacent for so long, they've been able to put certain things in place to where, let's just say that you have a general uprising. Well, they have certain things in place to mitigate those types of things. The only thing is that I don't know how effective that will be, because there are so many American people, like, for example, armed. Admiral Yamamoto said, you know, there's a gun behind every blade of grass. You'd be insane to invade mainland United States. And he's absolutely right. Would the powers that be decide, well, let's nuke them, that'll do it? Well, what happens to the land after you nuke it? It's pretty much worthless.
But the globalists have to get rid of the resistance in America to have their world government. You know, I've looked at history. I've studied different resistance movements. What they'll do is they'll over-respond. They will persecute and kill people. And then people's families aren't going to go out and engage the police in an armored vehicle or the feds out in the middle of the street. They're going to go to a bar where they're at. Or somebody's wife that, you know, they've killed a husband is going to go in a bar, and things are going to happen, you know, there. Things are going to happen in the bathroom. I mean, things are going to happen out at somebody's apartment. I mean, once this thing really gets going, man, I would not want to be somebody working for the government. And I think you're going to see that immediate break happen where people that are in the government are going to be forced to declare which side they're on. And I think if early on, if it goes to blows, it's important for people in government right now to be having a discussion, but also these corporations. See, that's why they're moving everything into corporations, giving the corporations the government power, thinking that then people won't be able to target it all. But that's not going to work either.
No, it's not. I just wrote an article entitled "The U.S. to Crack Down on Heretics in Orwellian Power Grab." It's amazing. When you're a student of history, you go back and you look. And this just reeks, and the parallels are striking between what happened to the reformers during the medieval period of history.
And the Inquisition? And
the Inquisition. It's striking the parallels. Why, that person's a heretic. How dare he say to read the Bible? And how dare he say the Catholic Church is apostate? Really? And that's the issue. Now it's how dare he speak out against the government? I mean, after all, we're looking out for your safety. So they're basically labeling Snowden and Binney and all these other whistleblowers as heretics. And I think you're going to come to see in the months and the years ahead that it's going to ramp up. It's going to ramp up quick, where more and more people are going to be called and labeled heretics and terrorists and traitors, when in fact it's the exact opposite. They're the ones that are sticking up for the truth. They're the ones that are maintaining the moral high ground, but they're going to be martyrs, I guess you could say, in the grand scheme of things, for freedom, for liberty. And it's funny because I wish more people out there took the time and unplugged from the television and plugged in to the history books and start to really see that all of these things, all these events that we're living through now, we've been through before. You know,
well, I think that's an important point. Why did the founders say, don't spy on somebody without a warrant, and then list a person, place, paper, things to be searched, an oath or affirmation, you can face your accuser. Now you can't face the fake informants for their fake warrants. You certainly can't face the NSA. Government is hiding behind a wall of national security, and the corporations are hiding behind that, but then we're told we don't have that shield. It's just incredibly hypocritical, and it's fraudulent, but we know every state that goes to spying becomes an authoritarian nightmare. I mean, we know right. It's not like we haven't been through this before over and over again.
That's right. Now, and I'm all for a strong national defense. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we need to defend ourselves. But we do not need to be imperialists. We do not need to go to places like Afghanistan or go and kill Gaddafi for the banksters because Gaddafi wanted to set up a free and independent Africa.
And then put Al-Qaeda in charge.
And then put Al-Qaeda in charge, of all people. The state-sponsored terrorism list, a numero uno, Al-Qaeda. Or, oh, by the way, let's just give $250 million and tanks and F-16s to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. You know? Meanwhile, you have federal employees being furloughed at home, and you're sending $250 million to Egypt. That one thing right there, Alex, let me tell you something. That one thing was probably one of the most effective tools that I could use to help illustrate the dysfunctionality and where reality really is. That helps snap a lot of people out.
Well, that was my next question. It's funny you bring that up. We're almost out of time here. I want you to make any other points you think are important before we go to this whistleblower from telecommunications. And it's this. When they put actual Al-Qaeda in Libya and now in Syria, even more openly, the number I saw yesterday was $1 billion to the Syrian rebels. Over 60% of them actual card-carrying Al-Qaeda, not just affiliated with Al-Qaeda out of Qatar and Saudi Arabia. The starting the war with Assad, who's not offensively doing anything, just insane. That has finally woken up so many neocons and mainline conservatives that I know going, now you get it, now you understand. And that's my point. The establishment's narrative is unraveling at every angle. I think they're burning down right now. But then I secondarily know that then they may pull a rabbit out of their hat because they know that their whole narrative is falling apart. So what's happening with that narrative in the military, and what rabbits may they pull out of their hat?
Well, yeah, see, now that's the thing. It never, ever comes to fruition the way that I envision it. Like, for example, you know, you think about these events, these false flag events that go down, and you try and you pay attention, but sometimes it's off in left field. So I have no idea how they're going to go about doing it. I know that they're desperate and that they have to because of the scrutiny that the IRS is under, and because of the scrutiny now that the NSA is under, and all of these scandals in Washington. What I don't like and what I don't appreciate is the fact that there's still a lot of American people out there that are just very apathetic about this whole thing, and that, well, I'm not concerned about politics. I don't follow that stuff. But you have to. I mean, this is your government that's supposed to represent you, and you are funding our demise. You know, that's one of the things I often wish that there was enough people out there that could say, you know what, I'm not having my income tax withdrawn from my paycheck. Instead, I'm going to put it in escrow. And when the United States government comes correct, I'll be glad to pay my taxes. But until then, you're not getting a red cent. And if enough people actually went and did that and participated in mass civil disobedience of that nature, this would come crashing down tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I got to say this, they put out this Pew poll where they can target certain demographics and say 56% of Americans like being spied on. Almost everybody I talk to is upset about it. They don't like it. They feel disempowered. It's like this poll I saw in the Denver Post a month ago by a Democratic Party polling group saying majority of Americans don't want to own guns anymore, when the sales and the culture and the TV shows show the opposite. I mean, you put any gun show on TV, it's a huge success. Gun sales, you know, hundreds of millions of guns. It's total crap. And they put these polls out saying you want to be spied on. But let's say 99% say they want to be spied on. It doesn't matter. In a republic, I have my rights.
That's right.
To run my life, my children, everything, regardless of what 99% of you want to do. If 51% want to make black people slaves again, they can go to hell, because the true interpretation of the Bill of Rights Constitution, Declaration of Independence, says that's a fraud. And sure, people had to fight and stand up to enforce that, but it was done. And nothing is ever given. It's taken. And these thugs are taking our liberty. They're trespassing on us, and it's time to stand up to them. But what do you want to say in closing, other points that you'd like to make? Because, you know, think about, you're off the show. What did you wish you would have said? Say it now.
Well, let me say this about those statistics. Mark Twain said it best in chapters from my autobiography. He said there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. 100% of cancer patients, Alex, drink water. I can take any statistic and skew it to the way I need it to be. Oh my gosh, water causes cancer. I can't drink water anymore. But that's not true. You have a Congress with an approval rating in the teens. You have a president with an approval rating of 45%, and 2/3 of the American public that don't trust what the mainstream media tells them. And you're telling me that 56% of the American people like being spied on, that they feel safer because of it? It's total and complete bunk. And the critical thing that we need to do, each and every one of us, is reach out and give this information to your loved ones, to your friends, to your family, especially those that are serving in America's armed forces, because they need to understand the beast that they are representing. They really need to come to grips with that. And I think once they face it, they'll have a whole new understanding, and there'll be a second thought before they follow that unlawful order.
Absolutely, and all of this is color of law. There was an article about police in Alabama setting up checkpoints, and I've been through similar ones before, where they call it a road survey, but this one they took blood samples from.
Oh, unbelievable. Disgusting.
And they have little bitty signs in the back saying, these are volunteers, as if that makes it okay. And the people under Stockholm Syndrome are scared, and most of them let them do it. And they said, it's okay. You know, they didn't have to. But
it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I've also heard, you know, where 5 monkeys are in a cage and they dangle a banana from the top of the cage. And every time a monkey goes up to get that banana, the scientist takes a fire hose and they blast them with the fire hose. And eventually they know if they go in and they reach for that banana that they're going to get blasted with the fire hose, so they don't do it. And then you add another monkey that hasn't been subject to all of that conditioning. And that monkey goes up and reaches for the banana, and the scientist doesn't spray him with the hose because he doesn't have to, because the other 5 monkeys pull him down. And they say, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That's not allowed.
That's right. That's why every time I fly through TSA, I point out, hey, you know these scanners they're using to scan the luggage? Those aren't properly shielded. Look at the studies, you're going to die. Oh, a bunch of you are getting cancer? They're like, yeah. Oh, by the way, you know, they injected people with syphilis, by the way. And then some of them come over and go, why are you causing an issue? Are you a terrorist? This happened in Dallas. I said, no, I'm not like the government that ships in the narcotics. I'm not like the government that, you know, did all this. And then I make a bigger scene in there, and then they try to hurriedly get me out. I will not. The difference between a human and an animal is humans can override Pavlovian conditioning, we can override pain, we can override caring, we can override fear. And I'm telling you, that's what's going to make or break this. I mean, I don't want to confront these people. I don't want to get in their face. I don't want to sit there and do all this, but I have to, because there's a greater pain of total enslavement at the end of this thing if I don't do it. And that's what it comes down to. We have to get aggressive. And I agree with you. I run a big media operation for alternative media, and it's as much as I can do just to keep it going, so I pick my battles. But I am getting more and more to the point where it's time to stop complying with even reasonable stuff, because you got to put yourself against the machinery till it stops when it's already running you over. With a steamroller, go ahead.
And to be honest with you, something that's very important to me, and a lot of listeners out there, I hope that they understand too, spiritual grounding is a very important component of it, because when you learn that you don't live for this life, you live for the next life, it takes the fear away instantly. It takes that fear away, and there's nothing that can stop you. You know, that's why I'm talking to you now, because I don't fear any consequence, because the consequence of me not acting out is so much worse in my heart and in my mind, and what my children will have to suffer through in 10 years or so, or 15 years, that it's unfathomable to me. I can't not act. So that's why.
Well, that's right. And again, by attacking the machinery, so many good people in the system who won't speak up are like the oil pump or the electrical system of the steamroller that's running you over. We can't just attack the big hard steel roller. We've got to go at the tires, at the driver, at everything. getting in their face about what's happening because it's their job to slam on the brake. It's their job to do something. So that's my point, is more and more we've just got to resist the corrupt controllers at every level. And that means just putting ourselves against the machinery. Listen, I really want to thank you for joining us. Joe Joseph, people can find out more at unboundradio.com or freedomlink.net. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We look forward to speaking to you again soon.
It's a pleasure, Alex. God bless you.
God bless you. Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, you name it. And the globalists have been going after gardening. They've been harassing people that have gardens in their front yards or their backyards. They've called for licenses for people to have gardens because you can't trust prisoners in the police state America to be able to grow their own food. That's why I've come to the realization that we need to become self-sufficient. You need to be informed. You need to have the Second Amendment to protect yourself. You need to be politically active to wake up others. You need to filter your water. But you also need to plant a garden. Even if you live in an apartment, you can do this. If you live in the countryside, obviously you can do it on a grand scale. There are so many green belts and areas that humans don't even visit, nearby cities and in suburbs, where people are now more and more planting their own little private gardens and meadows and off the side of the road. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a revolutionary act to unplug from the television, to unplug from the computer and all the globalist propaganda, and to go out in your backyard or your front yard or planters at your apartment or on the roof of the building where you live, and to plant a garden.
Here are some of the amazing deals at InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest of times. The ARC All-in-One Seed Kit contains 70 varieties of 50,000 seeds of fruits, vegetables, medicinal, and culinary herbs. All ARC seeds are heirloom. Each type is labeled and sealed separately for ease of use and longevity. The Deluxe Emergency Seed Bank combines 3 of Emergency Seed Bank's top sellers: the Family Survival Emergency Seed Bank, the Medicinal Herb Seeds Pack, and the Culinary Herb Seeds Pack. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, and medicinal herbs and more. Go to the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
A little seed can grow a huge tree that produces fruit for up to 50 years. We have the best life bombs. That's what these are. We have the best weapons against death out there at the lowest prices, waiting for you to lovingly plant them and lovingly grow them and lovingly eat them and share them with others. We will strike back against the New World Order, and this is only one more initiative in our fight against them. So please join us at InfoWarsShop.com, or you can link through at Infowars.com at the InfoWars Seed Center.